Hello Planet Internet, I'm Emperor Cole. This is Emperor Cole Film Review, brought to you by MindbenderENT.com. And today I'm going to do a spoiler review for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. If you have not seen this movie, you definitely want to check it out before seeing this review. Everybody else, let's get ready to take this journey together. It's our last time seeing what the Skywalkers are up to in the Star Wars universe. Let's take this ride together. Let's do it. Right off the bat, I'm going to say that I did not like that they introduced Emperor Palpatine to be the big villain who's going to be behind the scenes, who's the one who's pulling the strings the whole entire time throughout this trilogy. The fact that they made him the bad guy and brought him back, I feel like it's too much of the same old, same old. Star Wars has such a rich history of novels, comic books, and so many other pieces of just like canon where they could have took one of the other villains from one of those particular pieces of art and they could have brought them into the movies and introduced them if they wanted someone to be the villain behind Kylo Ren. The fact that they went right back to the Emperor was just too much fan service for me. I feel like they brought the Emperor back simply to appease some of the fans who were going crazy on the blogs and complaining. So I felt like that was a big missed opportunity, and they would have been better served to either just make Kylo the bad guy himself, where he was the villain and nobody was behind him and nobody was above him. And the only explanation that we get for how he survived and how he's even back is he says something to the effect of, oh, there are some things with the dark side of the Force that some would be considered unnatural. He says something to that effect. And for me, that felt very cheap, and it felt like very lazy writing, in my opinion. Another thing I really was not feeling in this movie was this love relationship between Kylo Ren and Rey. I get what they were going for, but it did not make sense that suddenly now Rey is just so enthralled with Kylo Ren and she's falling in love with him. I remember in The Last Jedi, he was trying to get her to come over to the dark side. He extended his hand and she refused his hand and decided to leave and escape. And now all of a sudden it's like, how do we pick up now in this movie where she's still considering him somehow? It's like she's still falling for him. It made no sense. It's almost like as if like there were some dates or something that's missing that we didn't see in between The Last Jedi and this movie, The Rise of Skywalker. And I feel like that was something J.J. Abrams should have did a little bit better. There should have been some kind of an explanation for why she was still entertaining him now, or why she's suddenly like in love with him or thinking about him and they're having this whole thing. I get that they're connected with the whole Force and all that, but it just didn't really work for me. The fact they were turning into like this Romeo and Juliet love story that they were trying to have going on between Kylo Ren and Rey. Also, the fact that when they kissed at like the end of the movie, when he dies or what have you, it's like that kiss wasn't really earned, because once again, there was no arc, there was no redemption, there was no point where they were supposed to have had this emotional moment where suddenly they had this connection. Granted, we had the fight scene where they're fighting, and Kylo Ren actually wins the fight. He's getting ready to kill Rey, and then like Leia reaches out to him telepathically or through the Force, and she says, Ben. And then like she just dies, I guess, because she's weak or what have you. And then suddenly that just changes him, like that hits him so emotionally, where now Kylo Ren's decided that he wants to turn over a new leaf, and Rey ends up stabbing him in the stomach, and then she decides to bring him back and revive him with the Force and give him the life again. But once again, it's like she saw Kylo Ren do nothing but kill people in the other movies. Kylo Ren was killing the rebels. He killed Han Solo. They witnessed that. I believe her and Chewie actually saw that happen. So it's like, how is she all of a sudden, like I said, why is she suddenly in love with him? It just makes no sense. It's like they used the Force and forced that one way too much. And speaking of General Leia's death, the fact that she suddenly dies because she uses the Force to reach out to Ben or Kylo Ren, was it the distance? We knew that she wasn't supposed to be in the best of spirits or the best of health, but that she just randomly dies laying on the bed and she says, Ben, you know, I understand that they had to kill the character off somehow because, of course, the Carrie Fisher passed away in real life, but it felt like they should have gave a little bit more of an explanation. Maybe that could have been a storyline thread that she was really sick, that's, you know, that they were expecting her to go any minute now. Then it would have made more sense for that moment to happen. But it was very convenient that right as Kylo Ren is getting ready to strike Rey down, because as I said before, he won the fight, he's getting ready to kill her with his lightsaber, and then right at that moment, his mother decides to telepathically reach him through the Force, and she passes away. And the fact that that suddenly has this profound effect on him, it felt very, very weak to me. Like Kylo Ren's redemption to me I didn't feel it, you know? It's like suddenly this guy who's killed so many people, he's been so tough. Even earlier in the film, he chopped off somebody's head when he was searching and looking for them. And you see the scene where he comes back into his quarters with the Knights of Ren and the rest of the troops. He throws the head of one of these characters, some big green person. He throws their head on the table, and it's just showing that he's that badass, he's that serious, he's willing to kill people to get to his goals and objectives, right? So if his goal is to kill this whole time, destroy them all, wipe out the Jedi, wipe out the rebels, suddenly when his mother, who's a general in the army of the rebels, who he tried to kill, I believe, in The Last Jedi, suddenly when she passes out, she dies, suddenly that just hits him so hard where it changes him and brings him back to the light side of the Force. This is the same character who murdered Han Solo, his father. I just wasn't buying it. That redemption felt very weak to me, and it didn't work. You know? This movie could have been called Star Wars: The Rise of Convenience. There are several points in this film where the characters are in somewhat of a dilemma, and suddenly they're conveniently in the right place at the right time, or something is conveniently just right there to help push the narrative of the story forward. An example of this is Rey, when she's on that planet that Luke went to when he wanted to be secluded and away from the world, and she goes there to avoid the vision where she ends up sitting on the Sith throne and becoming the leader of the Sith, or like the Empress of the Sith, and she's suddenly there and Luke gives her the pep talk and she's getting ready to throw her lightsaber into the fire because she destroyed her ride that she got there, her ship, and Luke talks to her, and then suddenly she's ready to go get to the fight, she's ready to go take on Palpatine, but she doesn't have a ride off the island. Suddenly, Force Ghost Luke comes and he just raises up the X-Wing that he used to get there that's been under the water, submerged for at least a year or two, or God knows how long, but it's been under this water, and suddenly she's gonna use this thing to fly back across the galaxy to get to where she needs to be. This thing that's been flooded, like how is this thing even functional? Like that kind of stuff, that it makes no sense. Suddenly it's just so convenient. So then, like I said, the film has several moments like that. Also, when they said that Luke spent all this time trying to find the Sith homeworld and he couldn't find it, and they go to this desert where they're looking to try to find this person who had the ship, the person who took Rey's parents, and they crash land in the exact spot that they need to crash land in, where they're in the marble sand. Not only do they go under to the quicksand, they go to the bottom, and they're right in the same exact spot where this person's ship was. They're right where they need to be to find this dagger. The dagger isn't buried under 10 feet of ground and sand and soil, because keep in mind, Rey is like at least 25, 26 years old. And that means that this ship had crash landed there all these years ago. And suddenly everything is conveniently right there for them to find. And not only does Rey magically has these new powers with the Force that she used, which is she used this new power to heal this giant snake, and the giant snake, right before it leaves off, its tail hits the back wall and knocks all on these rocks, so there's this giant hole for them to just walk right out, so they don't even have to find their way out of the maze to get out of this cavern, to get out of this, this underground space. They can now just walk out. So they conveniently landed in this right spot, one. Two, they conveniently were close enough to find the dead body of this guy, and they found the dagger that's got this inscription that's in the Sith language or what have you. Two, and then three, the snake, the giant snake, knocks this giant hole in the wall so that they can just walk out and keep the story going forward. Like I said, way too much convenience, and there are at least 3 or 4 other times in the film where things of that nature happen, where I felt like that was very lazy writing, where they just decided instead of being creative to get the characters out of these dilemmas, they just decided, hey, let's just magically put them in the right place at the right time. Now, granted, every type of film has to have some of that kind of stuff that happens to it, because it's movies, it's part of storytelling. For example, in Avengers, I believe Infinity War, was it Infinity War or Endgame? One of them. Actually, it's Endgame, where Scott Lang's the time machine that's in that truck, right? It just so happens that a rat crawls across the control panels and steps on the right sequence of buttons to pull him out of the quantum zone. That's very convenient, right? But that's the one thing that happened in that film. The storytelling in this film is kind of campy, where it's a touch silly and almost a return to the original Star Wars. The first film that was made in the 70s, I believe 77, does move forward at a very quick pace. And once again, it is kind of campy, it is a little bit goofy and silly. And at this point, though, I was expecting the storytelling to be more sophisticated the way films are nowadays. But JJ kind of returned back to that kind of form. And the pace of the film is quick. But like I said, they made it just a touch silly and campy. But I understand why they had to do it, because JJ was basically stuck with the things that happened in The Last Jedi. So he kind of had to resolve some things and just kind of had to work with what he already had. But that also made a lot of this film feel like it was fan service, and by fan service, I mean, it felt like it was Disney trying to make the people on the internet blogs like Reddit and the people going crazy on YouTube with their comments, they were trying to make too many people happy, and that's the reason why they returned to so many familiar things. So originally in The Force Awakens, it was explained that Rey's parents were just nobodies. They were random, like, vagabonds, like people who were just had nothing to do with nothing. And I thought that was actually an interesting thing to do because it left a lot of mystery around her and how she had come to be a Force user and become so strong. And then when they decided to make her the granddaughter of Palpatine, and, you know, Palpatine's son's daughter, I didn't really like that because, once again, this is supposed to be Star Wars, a galaxy far, far away. This is deep outer space, and once again, it's the whole galaxy, and yet we still keep having all these people who are connected to either the Skywalkers or Palpatine. It's like the same little small core group of people. And once again, I feel like that was Disney trying to appease the people on the blogs, on the internet, the people with the fan theories. They were trying to introduce them or just bring them to something familiar. And that was something that they thought people would like. For me personally, I didn't really care for it. I felt like it cheapened the story and made Rey less special to make her connected to Palpatine. Another thing that I thought was a little bit strange was there are several points in the film where the dialogue with some of the characters is absolutely terrible. And given the fact that this is a blockbuster film where they go through the script and they go through several drafts and several executives get to weigh in on what they like and what they don't like, I'm surprised that this dialogue and how bad it is at certain points, I'm surprised it actually made it through the development of the actual film. But it's not all bad because there are some great moments of humor where I enjoyed most of the humor in the film. Like the humor between Poe and Finn was actually very good as far as the timing and just the moments that it happened in. For example, when they're sinking in the quicksand and Finn is trying to say something to Rey, it sounds like he's getting ready to tell her that he loves her or something like that. And he ends up going under before he can say what he's going to say. And Poe brings it up to him several times where he's like, hey, what were you going to say to Rey? I thought that was really funny. And just the moments that it happened and seemed to be right on the money. Like, it was very good the way they set that up. So although there is terrible dialogue at some points, the humor was handled pretty well in this film, and I like that. So it's not all doom and gloom. As expected with all Star Wars movies, the action sequences in this film are top notch. It's a big blockbuster Hollywood film, and it is Star Wars. So like I said, they're great action sequences. One in particular that I enjoyed a whole lot was the scene where Rey and Kylo they're doing their whole Force like psychic connection thing where he's like outside in one place and she's inside of his quarters looking for that device to try to be able to find the Sith homeworld. And they start having the battle where they're fighting between the two locations, and they're hitting things that are in the background, like lightsabers are cutting through like stairs and all that kind of crazy stuff. So I like that. And the scene where Kylo actually swings at her, but he ends up cutting his Darth Vader, like the post or the banister, the stand that he has it set up on. He ends up cutting that in half, and he sees the mask and he realizes, oh, you're in my quarters. And he figures out where she's at. So I like that. That sequence of the action, that was dope. Also the scene where they're fighting on the ruins of what's left of the Death Star, and they're like, it's out in the ocean, like where all this crazy water is happening, these crazy waves. That was an intense fight sequence that I liked a whole lot as well. Another moment that was a little bit too convenient for me was the scene where Poe and Finn are captured. They're on the spaceship and they're getting ready to get shot and killed by the actual stormtroopers. And General Hux is there. Then suddenly Hux takes the blaster, he shoots the troopers and kills them. And he reveals that he's been a spy this whole time. And somehow he's working with the rebels and he wants them to beat Kylo Ren. And they say to him, why are you helping us? And he just says, I need Kylo Ren to lose. And it's like, okay, but what's the explanation behind this? Why does he need Kylo to win? Like, is there like a coup going on? Do they plan on overthrowing him? Is he trying to take over and be the #1 guy and lead the fleet or what have you? Be the leader of the First Order? So that was something that, once again, that was way too convenient in that moment, and it was just presented just for the sake of being able to get them out of that particular dilemma. And that's why I feel like that was lazy writing, very uninspired writing, where they could have done something far more creative. Another thing I did not like in this film, and I know it seems like I'm bombarding it and just hitting it with all the things I didn't like, was the fake death of Chewbacca. Like, come on, man. Like, don't do that. So they got this transport, and it looks like in this battle with where Rey is using the Force and Kylo Ren, they're fighting over who can stop this transport in the air, who can, who's gonna win the battle, and she ends up hitting it with Force lightning and it blows up and hits the ground, and you think to yourself, oh no, Chewie was on it, Chewbacca's dead. Everybody's sad and angry, and then 3 minutes later, oh no, there was this other transport that he was actually on. That's like, it felt very cheap. It was shock value. It was something to make the crowd gasp and make your audience feel this emotional moment that was just immediately pulled away and revealed to be fake, and that was very unnecessary. It felt like a minute version of when Nick Fury died in Captain America Winter Soldier, I believe. And you thought, oh man, Fury's actually dead, but at least they stretched that out until you didn't find out he was actually alive to the end of the movie. And this one with Chewbacca, it was literally 3 minutes later where they're walking him through when he's handcuffed up. So it was like, what was the purpose of doing that? I think they made the character of Rey a little bit too strong in this movie. And what I mean by that is, I understand she's a Jedi and she's using the Force, but not only is she able to do things that nobody's ever done before in any of the films, like there's that scene where she's able to stop the transporter in midair, the one that they think has Chewie on it, and she's able to control it and she's fighting with it with Kylo Ren. Like that's something where once she can do that type of stuff, who can stop her? Then also, once you see that she's able to use the Force to bring life and heal wounds, like with that giant snake, once I saw that, they basically telegraphed that. I knew later on in the film, somebody was going to be critically wounded or basically close to dying or would have died, and she was going to step in, put her hand on them, and bring them back to life. Like I saw that coming a mile away. So once a person has the power to bring people back to life, now there's nothing at stake because anybody can be brought back to life at the drop of a hat, just like that. So that was something where I felt like they made her a little bit too strong. They should have powered her down a little bit. I don't mind that Kylo Ren and Rey being Force users. We're gonna have some new Force abilities. Like I said before, that's cool, but there's some stuff that just seemed like it got a little bit out of hand. For example, the scene at the end where they're fighting and Kylo doesn't have a weapon and he's surrounded by the Knights of Ren. He's getting ready to scrap with them, and of course it's going to be a fight to the death. And then suddenly Rey's just able to use the Force and magically reach out like an Amazon Prime delivery and hand him the lightsaber so he can use, and he just suddenly takes them down like that. It's like, not only did you make the Knights of Ren look that weak because they just got taken down by him in like a quick moment, but once again, that's that campy storytelling where there's a problem, there's a dilemma, it's not even creatively solved. It's just magically, Rey can just reach an Amazon Prime delivery and throw him the sword, throw him the lightsaber so that he can fight. That was something that just, like I said, those new Force powers just seem kind of crazy. It's a little too much. And then with the being able to heal people, okay, I mean, Palpatine was trying to cheat death. That's kind of been his whole thing. He's been trying to live forever throughout all the Star Wars films and even the Star Wars novels and the comic books and all that. That's kind of been Palpatine's thing forever. He wants to live forever and be the Emperor, right? So I guess it took him this whole lifetime. It's taken him eons and decades to figure out how to be able to cheat death because he resurrected and brought himself back to life. So then the fact that Rey is suddenly just able to bring life back to people, and then when Rey was dying or it looks like she was dead and Kylo was able to just suddenly do it just like that, like he didn't have to train for decades, for eons to get this same ability, and he's just able to bring life back to her just like that. I understand they're supposed to be really powerful and strong, but once again, it felt very campy, very cheesy, very convenient, you know? And that was something that I didn't like. Another thing that I found to be very unique with this film, with the story and how it was told and how it was directed and presented, Palpatine had this elaborate plan that Rey was going to strike him down, and when she killed him, he would be able to transfer his essence into her body, and she would rule as he was all the Sith were within him. And once she killed him and struck him down, all the Sith was going to transfer into her, and she was going to sit on the Sith throne and be the ruler, right? So if he would have never told her that if she strikes him down, this is what was going to happen, she was so upset with him over her parents when she found out that he was behind her parents being killed, she was going to kill him anyway, right? So this is another moment where I said it's almost like the campy, cheesy storytelling. It's like the stuff that you would expect. I would expect Skeletor or Megatron or the Shredder from the Ninja Turtles. You know, I would expect one of them in a 30-minute cartoon to do something like that, where they explain their plan to the good guy, and now the good guy knows what's going to happen, so they're not going to do it, and now they know how to stop him. And that's what I mean. If Palpatine would have never explained to her his plan, she will strike me down, and she will draw her sword, she will fix her hair back over a 3/4 length of her. Like, come on, man. If he never does that, she would have killed him anyway, and he would have actually won and completed his plan. But since the way the story was presented, the way it was told, like a 30-minute cartoon, real campy and cheesy, he decides to tell her what's gonna happen, and it doesn't happen. He loses. And then when she does end up killing him, where she takes the two swords and she has her Tony Stark moment where she has the two lightsabers and she says, "And I am all the Jedi," and she kills him, and guess what? He doesn't inhabit her body. He doesn't do anything. Nothing happens. And another set of characters that I did not like the way they were handled was the Knights of Ren. So now the Knights of Ren were like Kylo Ren's right-hand mans in them. They were his partners in crime. This was like his own special elite force, right? These are the guys who helped him destroy the Jedi Temple when him and Luke got into that scrap during the training. When all that stuff went down, they burned down the Jedi Temple with him. So there was a lot of mystery around them where I was expecting them to be these badass characters who were fierce and expecting them to have some type of a significant role in the film. And the Knights of Ren, they were just guys dressed up in black who showed up in a couple scenes, walking really fast, chasing after people. And then when Kylo decided that he was going to the light side and all that, he had that one scene where Rey hands him the lightsaber, and then he dispatches them, gets rid of all of them in like a minute or two. And I'm like, man, they made them look really soft. They made them look like suckers. And I'm like, they would have been better off not putting the Knights of Ren in this movie, just letting them be this own mystery of their own. Keep the mystery, keep the mystique around them, and maybe do like a Disney Plus show with them or something where they explain who they were or how they became to be. Okay, so The Rise of Skywalker, although I went through and highlighted a lot of the things that I did not like about the film, or parts of the story that I had troubles with, it didn't really work for me, this movie does have some entertainment value to it. It is entertaining. If you just want to shut your brain off and have a good time, that's when you can enjoy the action sequences and things of that nature. You will enjoy those particular parts of the film. But for me, I was expecting a little bit more complex storytelling. I was expecting a little bit more creativity as far as what was going to be done. So my expectations weren't exactly met with this particular film. Is it a horrible movie? No, it's not. But is it up to the level of Star Wars that I was expecting, according to some of the other things that recently come out? No, it didn't hit that level at all. And especially since I thought JJ did a fantastic job with The Force Awakens, I was expecting him to do something that was up to that level, or just something that was going to satisfy me in that particular way. This movie, unfortunately, did not. So if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan, you definitely want to see this film while it's still in theaters. Definitely check it out because it is the end of the Skywalker saga. So of course, you're still going to want to see the movie for yourself. If you're the casual fan who's not deep into the Star Wars lore, you'll probably like it a lot more because you won't realize the rules and the things that they're breaking and the things that they're doing wrong that are going against the Star Wars tradition, or even some of the new stuff that they're establishing, which is fine, but some of it is so egregious that it's tough to digest and just take all in. So now it's time for me to give Star Wars, so The Rise of Skywalker, a score on the Mindbender movie meter. And I'm gonna have to go with a 58%. 58% on the Mindbender movie meter. Okay, so this has been Emperor Cole Film Review for Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. If you enjoyed this review, definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel. And of course, leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about the film, what you liked, or what you didn't like. And of course, make sure you check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Mindbender Entertainment. Check us out on Twitter at MindbenderENT. Check us out on Instagram at Mindbender_Entertainment. And of course, check out the website, mindbenderent.com. And remember, the future is now.